like the eternal city that is Rome, where the ecclesiastical splendor of the Renaissance completely enthralls the imagination. The dome of St. Peter's rises upwards like a heavenly choir. From the topmost pinnacle, the centuries that are Rome spread out in everlasting significance.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Tonight I'm speaking with my godfather, David Hoffman. We both go to St. Martin of Tours in Louisville, but I don't want to skip too far ahead, so I'll ask you this. How did you decide, or when did you decide that you wanted to sponsor someone?
Well, I was asked by Father Carr, David, actually, he stopped me after I was serving one day. He said, would you be interested in sponsoring someone? I'm like, I was born Catholic, raised Catholic, and I've never, over all these years, ever sponsored someone for, to go through RCIA. But I said, yeah, I'd be more than happy to. And that's how I met you.
Yeah. So what did you expect it to be like it was? Were there any surprises or anything like that?
No, it wasn't not surprises. Because I think you guys had already been so far down the road in your education in the program that I thought I'd be have to attend more classes, if you will. And of course I wasn't required to attend any of the actual classes, although Father Carr had said, Dave, you can, if you want to, feel free to come on in. And I actually wanted to, because I was interested to see how it's taught there, because I've seen how RCIA was taught in some other parishes, but I want to see how it was taught there because of the St. Martin's is a unique place, and I wanted to see the differences. So I wasn't taken back, but I was very interested, in actually being able to sponsor someone. And of course, the person I sponsored probably knows more about the Catholic faith than I do. So
I wouldn't say that.
Well, I don't know. I was very impressed with some of our conversations, that we had. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned Father Carr. Is he your favorite priest or one of the favorite priests?
So what's really good about Father Carr are his homilies, and he does not pull punches. He teaches the faith, and he's very a very soft-spoken guy, right? You've heard him, obviously.
Yeah,
very
he takes his time.
But when you really ask him questions about things, he knows. I mean, he knows the answers, and he's not afraid to tell you, oh no, you can't do this, or oh yeah, you should do that. but he does it in such a very calming voice. He's very good to hear, and I love his homilies. Absolutely the best.
Yeah, and his classes were good too. Getting to attend those twice a week was great, and I kind of miss it now that it's over.
Yeah. Over the last few years, he has offered some, like, I'll just call them some classes. Usually it's one night, maybe 2 nights, but just in a broad range of topics. And we always try to go when he has those. So they're really, really good.
Yeah. So those are just like in the refectory or whatever you pronounce that word.
Rectory?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's in the it was the rectory, but now it's like a meeting, a meeting room. They have a large meeting room there, yeah. Except for when they had the exorcist when he came in.
Ooh.
They had that one in the actual in the church, and that was filled.
So, yeah, I was there. That was one of my first times coming to St. Martin's, and that was the most packed I've ever seen it for an exorcist.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but
Yeah.
I guess a lot of people are interested in that, like the demonic and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole the movie and all that. I mean, it's always fascinated people. Yeah, to me, it's one of the most scariest movies, not by just the visual stuff, but just the what's the words I'm searching for? The possibility of that really happening, right? I mean, the Exorcist, the movie, was based off of a true story of a young boy, and it's just that scares me. That horrifies me. So I'm sure a lot of people are interested in hearing from a true exorcist a lot of these types of stories.
And it was Father Vincent Lampert, right?
That sounds right. Yes,
I think so.
Yeah.
He's quite famous on YouTube. So listeners probably heard of him.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm more of a Father Ripperger fan. If you ever heard of him,
Yes,
he's one of the best.
Yeah.
So how did you discover St. Martin of Tours?
So, okay, that's an interesting story.
We'll get right into it.
Yeah, I was on a business trip. We had about a 3-hour drive in one direction and a 3-hour drive back home, all in the same day. So it was like 3 hours to get there, had to do some work, and then 3 hours back. So on the way home, there's 4 of us. It was me, and I was in the back seat with another gentleman and the 2 guys up front. Somehow, and I don't remember the details, but the conversation turned to religion or faith. I don't remember the actual topic. And I was listening to these guys talk, and I'm like, well, I'm Catholic. And I was raised Catholic. I went to 12 years of Catholic schooling. I'm a Catholic. And the guy in the front seat, I kind of do it. It's like, really? Kind of turned over the front seat. Like, really? I'm like, yeah. He's like, when was the last time you went to confession? I'm like, I don't remember. He's like, so have you missed Mass? I'm like, oh, I've missed Mass, a lot. Like, okay. Did you take communion later? I'm like, yeah. He goes, that's a sacrilege. I'm like, no, I didn't know that at all. And we got talking about a ton of topics because the other guys just start clamming up because we got focused on, Catholicism. And then he started talking about the Latin Mass. And I'm like, yeah, you mean that thing they got rid of back in the 60s? He's like, no. I mean, yeah, but no, they didn't get rid of it completely. They still have it. You just have to know how to go find it. And so he told me about masstimes.org, which is a website you can go to, and you punch in your city zip code, and you can search through there for different, churches, different Catholic churches, and you look for the traditional Latin Mass.
That's a great website.
Yes, it is.
I like
and
it.
It's obviously known as the extraordinary form of the Mass, right? So that's what you have to search for if you look for the, if you just want to search. So when I did that, I found St. Martin of Tours, and I told my wife about it. And then that Sunday, so that was maybe I don't know, that was a Thursday on that ride home. And then that following week and weekend, the gentleman was back in town because he actually lived in a different city. So he would come in from Monday through Thursday, and he was out Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So he's like, Dave, did you go to Mass? I'm like, no, I'm still doing my research. He's like, oh, come on, Dave, you're killing me. He's like, you got to go to Mass. You got to go to Mass. I'm like, I'm looking into it. So finally, I got my wife and some friends. I said, let's go check this out. I want to see the Latin Mass. I've never seen it. I want to go check it out. And so we did, and we sat there, and I was in just total awe during the Mass because I didn't understand anything that was going on. I didn't know when to stand up, when to sit down, when to kneel. But I was just totally amazed with the orchestration, if you will, how everything is very deliberate, right? And I learned that's what they call the rubrics, right? The priest has a
Yeah.
special set of instructions he has to do. So it's very specific. He's not just doing what he wants. It's in the book what to do. And so I was like, okay, that's it. That's the faith. Where has this been all my life? I was raised Catholic, but I never seen this before. And I told my wife, I'm like, we got to start going to this mass. And of course, the other parish that we had been attending, we hadn't made a lot of friends, and obviously didn't want to leave them. So I was trying to like take some of the stuff I was seeing there at St. Martin's and bring it to the parish that I was going to at the time.
So like ad orientem and altar rails maybe, or
Yes, yeah. And that didn't go over very well. So I talked to the parish priest, and I asked him, I said, what can we do to maybe establish a Latin mass here in this parish? Because it was still the old school parish. We still had the communion rail. So it could be done. They'd have to move the front altar, but they still have the high altar in place. And he just didn't seem receptive of it. And he told me to go to talk to all these different committees. And I did. And I mean, I was not well received on making changes. So there, a lot of people been there for a while. So things kind of established. So here comes Dave.
People
Want to change it all. So anyway, so I told my wife, I'm like, well, we have to just go to Latin mass. There's nothing else. She said, well, let's just go to what is now the 10 o'clock mass. And let's just see. I'm like, you don't understand. The Novus Ordo mass is not any good. I mean, after you see the Latin mass, I mean, come on. It's just like Cadillac and Volkswagen, right?
Yeah.
They both get you there, but one's a lot better than the other. So I took her up on her bet, and we went to the 10 o'clock mass, and I was totally blown away. And this was before we had switched that mass to ad orientem. And so this was still had the front altar, and it was Father Carr was presider that day, and I was just totally blown away. And I told Tina, my wife, I'm like, yeah, you're right. This is awesome. Then we got talking to other people in the parish, and they said, yeah, we're kind of like a little oasis, right? We kind of do things not like all the other parishes do. And so then about, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, there was a movement, and I was part of that, to change the 10 o'clock mass to ad orientem for the Novus Ordo mass, which is, in my opinion, is probably the perfect blend between the new mass that I was raised with, right? I mean, I was raised with, no high altar, just an altar out there in the front.
Yeah.
In the Latin mass, it's just a perfect blend. So like all of our songs, except for a lot of times for the intro and the exit, escapes me the name of that, but those are usually sung in the vernacular. But all of the other ones are sung either in Latin, or obviously the Kyrie is Greek.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people get confused about that. They think Kyrie is Latin. But
yeah. I mean, I did.
Yeah. We've all made that mistake.
Yeah. So that's how I ended up there, is that car ride home. So I'm glad, you labeled this one as the business trip to paradise, because this guy, he and I, he kind of beat on me for, about a month before that car ride home, before I actually went to mass. I was doing research. I was trying to research about all the things he was telling me on this car ride home. And the more I would dig in, the more I would find that he was right. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know these things. Either I didn't pay attention in all my 12 years of Catholic schooling, or it was never taught to me.
Yeah.
And it might have been both, a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm. So what were some of the things that he was telling you that
Well,
you were researching?
yeah, well, like, okay, so I used to play some online games, and one of those games had a spaceship called a sacrilege. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was the name of a spaceship in the game. I didn't know what a sacrilege was. And an acolyte, which is
Yeah.
a form of like, well, I think an altar server is a minor order of an acolyte.
Mm-hmm.
So all these, I just didn't know. So the confession, if you miss mass, that is considered a mortal sin, and you should go to confession before you receive communion.
Yeah.
So those things were never taught to me, even in 12 years of Catholic grade school. I do not recall ever hearing that. We should not receive communion in the hand. It's accepted, but we shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Are
I
you
forget all.
familiar with like the doctrine of the Congregation of Faith? Like in the 70s, they wrote they did a study and they agreed that communion on the tongue was the preferred way, but
Yes.
that was never really put in order, I guess, by the
Yeah.
magisterium or whatever. But
Yeah. So, and he was telling me, like, and this is not a doctrine or anything, but like the three pillars of the church, right? You got the magisterium, you've got the Bible, and then you got the church's history, the teachings, and the history,
tradition.
tradition. Thank you. Yeah, tradition. And there's just so much. I mean, honestly,
Mhm.
it is so much that I had never heard of. It was almost overwhelming at first.
Yeah.
And my wife had gone through the RCIA program, and it was a very liberal parish at the time. Of course, I didn't know any better. So we learned. We're learning together. And honestly, we've been there since 2016, and I'm still just learning stuff all the time,
Mm-hmm.
all the time.
There's always you can never learn enough. Like I don't think you could learn it all in one lifetime.
Oh
Just so many
no,
aspects of the faith and like
you
all
know,
those top two shelves are just the early Christians.
yeah,
So that's
exactly.
a lot of
Yeah,
books.
and some of the other things like girls serving as at the altar.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's disallowed, but I know like St. Martin's, it's not allowed. Um, I overheard a parishioner once say, uh, "Can my daughter, be a server?" And they said, "No. We are a very traditional parish, and it's only young men, old men,
Yeah.
because I serve at the 10 a.m. mass."
Yeah. And so I think that is allowed. Like I heard Pope Francis do it in Rome at St. Peter's, but
Mhm.
so like they are the altar servers, are the altar boys. That's a minor order of the priesthood. So it's kind of like um, girls can't grow up to be priests, so there's really no point in allowing them into the minor orders.
That's correct. So it kind of, I think that leads to a little bit of a false hope. You know, Also it reduces the number of young men that can serve. We have, oh gosh, well, we have 4 men, and now we have 4 young men that are like now part of our normal cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying to help train them up so that if I need to step out a little bit, if I'm gone for a few weeks away, then those guys can start, you know, doing, more of the, more than just carrying, the crucifix or the candles. That's where you start, when you're
Yeah.
serving. that's where I started.
Mhm.
So, um,
So how did you like where did you get your curiosity for that? Why did you want to do that?
to serve.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the best way I can describe that is I felt like I needed to. Maybe
Mhm.
it was a calling of sorts, but I felt like I felt like I needed to, even wanted to. Um, I've always been never been afraid to like be in front of people. Um,
Yeah.
and although I will say I was a little nervous the first few times because I didn't want to mess up because I
Yeah.
watched the Latin Mass and the servers are so I don't want to say rigid, but they're so structured in their movements.
Mhm.
Everything is synchronized and it's very well laid out. Um, I didn't want to be up there fumbling around. So when when I asked to serve, they said, "Yeah, we always need more servers," and they said, "We'll help you through it. We don't have an official training, but you start off with this one thing." And for me, that was crucifer, and that's the easiest role. You carry the crucifix up, and then you carry it out. And that's about it.
Yeah.
But now I looked into this as well. So, and I don't remember where I read it, but I think it's a great saying. But they say servers, or when you're in the sanctuary there, you are intermingling with the angels at the
Yeah.
sacrifice of the mass. And to me, I thought, how cool is that? I mean,
Mhm.
obviously I can't see them, right? But um, you know, I'm I'm right there, and I hope to receive graces and to take that and then be able to present that back out to others. Um, you know,
Mhm.
after I'm finished for the day for serving. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's like the entire theology behind the altar rails. I don't know what that little area is called. Like the top of the where the priest and
Mhm.
um, yeah, that's supposed to represent heaven, while
Right.
the rest of the church is just like earth. So when you're going to the altar rail, you're literally like um, split between heaven and earth almost.
Right. Yeah, it's the sanctuary
Yeah,
versus
sanctuary.
the nave. I think they call it. It's the nave
Hmm.
is on the other side of the altar. They used to have gates there. So a lot of parishes will still have those, especially if they do the traditional Latin Mass. You'll see them as they proceed in, they'll open the gates up and then they'll close them.
Ooh, I've never seen that.
Yeah,
Pretty cool.
we were in where were we? New Orleans. I think it was St. Patrick's. We went there. It was a Latin Mass, and that's where I saw it. Um,
Hmm.
oh, and if you look on the floor in St. Martin's, you'll see where they filled in, I guess, where the gates were at one point.
Yeah.
So
Um, I guess that might be intimidating or something. They might have thought it was intimidating, but
yeah, my guess is it's a result of some stuff from the Vatican II, where they were trying to become more um, presentable or more accessible.
yeah, lifting the siege
Yeah,
of the previous century, because Italy or the Papal States were literally under siege, just like 80 years before Vatican II, I think, around there. Uh, so yeah, like the entire mentality switched after Vatican II.
oh yeah. And see, and I grew up I mean, I was born in '63. I think all the Latin Mass everything was switching over in the late '60s, I think, mid to late '60s. So I never saw that. I never saw the old Latin Mass. And everything I grew up on was, the Novus Ordo in, you know, with the altar, the front altar.
Hmm.
That's all I ever saw.
So
But
yeah, like I think like once you get to like 70, 1970 and like 71, that's when it really started to kick into gear. But like Vatican II never really said to get rid of Latin entirely. Like in fact, it said the opposite,
that's
still
correct.
included for music and all that. So
That's right.
It's interesting how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, it's interesting and sad, really. And for people that don't know, people that don't know, so how do you get that message out to people that there is a more beautiful way, even if it is the Novus Ordo ad Orientem with music in Latin. It's just absolutely beautiful. I mean, we still attend the Latin Mass, but the ad Orientem Mass is just, in my opinion, again, the perfect balance. Actually, I think the way it is presented at St. Martin's is exactly how Vatican II interpreted the Mass should be. So, even though we can say it in the vernacular, like I said, all the music is in Latin or Greek. So that makes it makes it beautiful. Plus, the choir is absolutely beautiful.
It's a professional choir, isn't it?
It is a professional choir, yes.
Hell.
Yeah.
And then how old's the organ that St. Martin has?
Wow.
Like 150 years old or something like that.
Yeah, it's up there. Yeah. They just did a restore on that.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Like, it's going to cost them like $1 million or something to.
It's crazy high. Yeah, I think there's only 2 of those in the world like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, speaking of 2, or go ahead first.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of 2, we have the 2 martyrs also,
Yeah.
Saint Venosa and Saint Magnus.
That's right.
So, what did you think of those when you first saw them?
I have to find my chart. I've got it around here somewhere in my office. But
and yeah, for the viewers, those are the bodies of 2 martyrs from the 200s, killed by the Romans, early Christian martyrs. And, so they're full skeletons. You can see them when you're at the altar rail or waiting for communion. You can just look ahead, see a saint. So it's really neat.
Yeah, isn't that awesome? I mean, think about it, and you think about, oh my gosh, they were martyred in, I think it was 285. I mean, think about just that, the year 285. I mean, and there they are. I mean, and just the fact that the church has records of this from that far back, it just blows me away. But when I first saw them, of course, it kind of scared me. I'm like, skeletons, oh no. But looking into their history, it's quite well, that's why they're saints, I guess. The story is just amazing. And I know you do a lot of research with the saints and stuff, and I haven't done as much as I should have with St. Magnus and St. Venosa, but I mean, I know that he was a Roman centurion.
Yeah.
That I believe, and you're more than welcome to correct me if I'm wrong with this. But
I should research more myself. Just having those there, I need to learn more.
I think he defended her.
Oh yeah.
And that's why he was, killed. So she was, a known Christian virgin, and he was defending her, and so they were both martyred. But
it's really amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's I was going to lead into that as well. That yes, we had the 2 martyrs there at St. Martin's, and again, it's just I think back on just all of the history, and all of the things that I could have learned over my lifetime that, like what you're doing, right? So earlier I mentioned, like, there's some things I want to say about you, because I felt like I'm learning actually from you as well. Even though I'm your godfather, we'll just say that by age. I'm godfather by age, but I know that you've studied a lot of the faith, and I think that's just absolutely amazing.
I actually haven't studied that much though, but I think just like having the website, I'm exposed to a lot of different viewpoints, and like to edit, I have to read articles, and so that really helped me kick up or get up to speed. And then I was going to try to find a book series. Just a second. So yeah, these like textbooks. These are really
Right.
good.
Yeah.
Try to show one of them. So yeah, it's just like brief quotations from each of like the fathers, and it goes through pretty much like the entire or the first 700 years. So if you just read this little set, you'll get like pretty much all of it. And
Wow.
that's the same as that, but that's much more in depth, full length, and all that. So have you ever read the early church fathers yourself?
I have not. No. I was never much of a reader. Now I've started, but again, I guess it's, maybe we should title this one Better Late Than Never. But I have started reading. I've read all of the Life of Christ by Fulton Sheen. If you want to read a good book, that's really good. See, I even learned stuff from that. I mean, I never even knew the city of Bethlehem, what the word Bethlehem meant. So
What does it mean?
it means
I'm
house of
unfamiliar.
bread.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and a manger. What's a manger? Wow.
I think I heard that from Father Carr. It's like the Jewish people used to put like their sacrificial lambs in like a manger to.
Well, it's a feeding trough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I learned all this from Fulton Sheen's book, and you would think that would have been taught in my religion class in third grade or something like that. But anyway, so yeah, my reading has been very limited. So I've read the book by Fulton Sheen, which I highly recommend it. It's really, really good. There's so much stuff in it. And then I started reading a book, Padre Pio. Well, actually, my wife has it at the moment, but there's a 2-part book, and it's little short stories about people that had interacted with Padre Pio during his lifetime. And wow, I mean, wow, some of the stories, I mean, they could make movies about this. I mean, movies, not a movie, movies, because they are so inspiring.
Did you watch the one they made about him by starring Shia LaBeouf?
I have not. I know of it.
Yeah.
Has it been released?
I think so. I think it came out in theaters like a couple months ago, so it might not be like on streaming or any of that yet. But
yeah,
I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, but wow, what an amazing man he was. Wow.
Yeah.
And then I've got Sister Faustina's book, which I have not yet read.
Mm-hmm. That's a big book right there. Her journals or whatever.
Yes. Her notebooks.
Divine Mercy.
Yep. And then I've got another one. We just did some remodeling. I've got everything kind of put away. I have to find them now. But I've read, let's see, the 4 Last Things. So that's an easy little book to read. It's so the 4 Last Things: death, judgment, heaven, and hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good book to read. A little unsettling at times.
Yeah. Like St. Alphonsus, he wrote a book called Preparation for Death.
Yeah.
It's good to read books like that though, because it kind of it keeps you away from sin. Like if you just consider those things, like if you consider your last end, you'll never sin. Like it's what St. Augustine said.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of been the limits of my theology readings.
Yeah. Well, for early church fathers, I might recommend Saint Irenaeus. He was a student of John the Apostle, Saint John the Apostle. So he has that direct connection. And he talks about like the Catholic Church being like the superior church, and like that's really cool to see. And then he wrote a book called Against Heresy, so that's a really cool book. And then some other ones, just like Saint Ignatius of Antioch, he was a martyr. Saint Polycarp, those you can both read in like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some good ones to get under your belt.
Yeah, and those are some I really need to. And I know Father Carr, and I'm sure you guys probably already talked about this a little bit. He was a big he studied the lives of the saints.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think it was one of our meetings in the parish, one of the times I had to be there with you guys. I think I may have mentioned that to you. I'm like, Father Carr is a big reader or study. You know, he studied the lives of the saints. So,
Yeah.
So you two guys would get along really well.
Yeah. And he definitely knows a lot about the saints or anything in general. I was surprised by that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's very smart. He's very, I say he's very good with his homilies and not written.
No
They're not
notes
written.
or nothing.
Only once that I see or hear about it, and it was a very hot topic, and I think he had to be careful of his words, and I think he was very, I don't want to say upset, but he was very, you know, he had to make sure he stayed on track for that one. That was the only time I've ever known him to have a script that he read.
Yeah. We're gonna have to knock him for a few points for having a script.
Yeah, right. No. But it was a very, it was a very strong message.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he wanted to sway, you know, because sometimes I guess when you're trying to talk, just even this, right? Sometimes you're meaning to go this direction, but then you kind of start drifting off a little bit, and you start talking a little bit something different than what you were intending on.
Yeah.
Talk about.
That's always the fun parts of conversations like this.
Right. Yeah, this is fun. So the business trip was interesting. It did. So I once gave a talk on the four last things. Speaking of that book, I did it with that guy. He lives up in Cincinnati, so I drove up there, and he and I gave a presentation on the four last things. And well, I lost my train of thought. What I was getting to.
What church was this at in Cincinnati?
Well, I don't remember the name of the parish. It was just a visit, and it was to talk about. Well, anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to I got sidetracked. There we go.
Yeah,
I got sidetracked.
Yes. Speaking of Cincinnati, I guess like there's a lot of cool Catholic churches there. There's that Greek Revival Church. It kind of looks strange, but it's like a Greek style, I guess. So, like it has all the arches and all the arts and the Greek style, I guess. But
yeah. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Sorry, that came back. So
yeah.
the car ride home, me talking with this guy, he and I gave this talk, and I told that and during that speech about the four last things that I felt that, you know, maybe there was actual divine intervention on my behalf, because had I not started this new job, had I not taken this one business right up there, I would probably still been a bad Catholic, right? Because I called myself out all the time. I was not a good Catholic, and I'll even say that now to people I go to mass with St. Martin's. So we'll go out to dinner with some people, and I'll say, yeah, I was a bad Catholic years ago. And what's a bad Catholic? I'm like, well, I would just miss mass, and then just without going to confession, I'd go receive communion in the hand.
Yeah.
You know, by a woman handing it out, right? Or just sometimes you'll hear the term cafeteria Catholics. I like that. I don't really care for that over there, so I'll just take just parts of this. So yeah. So Now I try to conform to the church's teachings, not what Dave wants,
Yeah.
but what the church says. These are the guardrails we put up for you, right? To stay on that narrow road, these are the guardrails. So,
It's a good way of looking at it. And that's like
yeah,
the beauty of the Catholic Church. Like if you believe the Catholic Church is true, that means inevitably that like all its teachings are also true. It's like if you believe something or you disagree with the Catholic Church, the Catholic Church isn't wrong, you're wrong.
right. It's
That's
exactly right.
comforting in a way. It's
Well,
it's really
I sent you that story that I wrote, right? The Cheerios on
yeah.
the floor story. And I'll tell your viewers just real quick. So my daughter at the time was maybe 10 years old, 11 years old. And she came up to me and said, and we weren't going to mass on a regular basis. She goes, Dad, can we start going back to church? And I'm like, sure, we sure can. So I think it was on Easter Sunday. It was just her and I went. My wife and my other daughter stayed home. And as mass was ending, or during the communion, the priest had walked to the back of the parish to give communion to a woman in the wheelchair because the church was old and there really wasn't a way to get up in a wheelchair. And he walks back up and he stopped and picked something up off the floor. And I just figured it was something I didn't know. And so mass ends, and usually they kind of have like announcements and stuff like that. Well, he came down to the lectern and pulls out a Cheerio out of his pocket and said, "How many times have I told you all not to eat during mass?" And I was like, "Whoa, okay." So I like having a strong teacher. I don't want some wishy-washy person. I can do that. I want
Yeah.
somebody that's telling me this is what you should do, you shouldn't do. This is the faith. This is how we believe it and why we believe it. Um, and this priest was doing that by saying you don't eat during mass. You don't. I'm sure it was probably for somebody's children, but you don't do it. You just don't do it. And so that caught my attention. And then of course St. Martin's caught my attention. So those are two incidents in my life that have kind of redirected my focus of Catholicism back on track. Because after that, with the Cheerio, we were going back to mass. And then after he left, then we got up. I don't want to say a weak priest, but he wasn't as strong as what we had. And I guess you can only be as good as your leader. And me and many others that we were friends with just stopped going.
Yeah. And that's it's kind of like the important thing about having or being surrounded by other people, like other strong people. It kind of raises you up.
That's right.
And just like
But
going to St. Martin's, you see like a lot of big families, good families, like strong men and strong women as well. So it's just it
absolutely
inspires you to be better.
absolutely does. And not like in a competitive way, but because I want to be like them. I mean, I see good, strong, holy Catholic men there, and that makes me want to be like them. And you talk about those large families. There's a family there with I think 14 children.
Oh wow!
And there was one, and I don't know their names, but I see them all the time. I think they have 6 or 7 daughters, and all of them were wearing their veils, and they were all at the communion rail. And because of their age difference and their heights, my background's all blurry. It was boom, 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 boom. It was the cutest thing. I told my wife, look at this. I mean, isn't it beautiful? They had their veils on, and it's just beautiful. And that's stuff that I like to see. That is, it's the church. It's the church's teachings. It's the strength in the church, and that's what attracts people. Good, solid teaching.
Yep. And so like Saint Martin, they take it seriously, and there's also the reverence. So that's like the 2 points in your story, like the Cheerios story, taking things seriously, and then
Right.
discovering Saint Martin's, you discovered reverence for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. As you can see during the mass, um, the priest, both priests, they take their job very seriously there. And
Hmm.
Father Beach is a canon lawyer, so
Oh, I didn't know that.
I've learned some stuff from him. Um, one time I told him I bought, oh, what was it? Bought a Latin book or something like that. Oh no, I'm sorry. I bought the 1962 Missal. And he
Mm.
goes, well, now you got to learn it. So I'm like, oh man, now the pressure's on. So
That was a good impersonation of Father Beach. It sounded just like him.
right, yeah. Oh, he can be quite he can be quite comical. So we get him out of the parish, out of the building, and he's a jokester, or he can be. But
Yeah, I need to talk with him more. I've only like shaken his hand leaving church or leaving mass.
right, yeah, he's good. He's also very knowledgeable. Obviously, as a canon lawyer,
Mhm.
yeah, he knows the stuff. Um, so he's really good. So I'd say like he's very technical, so he knows stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you've gone to the Latin Mass, he sings that Mass, and he's very, very good at it. I mean, wow! If you any of your viewers are in Louisville, Kentucky, and they go to that Mass, go to the 12 o'clock Mass to see it. If Father Beach is the presider, he has a beautiful voice, and he sings that entire Mass. It's very, very beautiful.
Father Carr doesn't sing, does he? But
No, he doesn't sing. I don't know what his voice would sound like. I've never heard him sing. Um,
it's probably beautiful.
he does he does every third Sunday. He does
Yeah,
the Latin Mass.
and that
So
always throws people off because it has like less music and
it's a low Mass.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
there's also like a special aspect to that. It's kind of more contemplative. It forces you to like pray more, and like just the silence of it. It's more meditative. So
Yeah.
I enjoy
Well,
both.
did you know that I guess the actual term is you don't go to Mass, you go to pray the Mass,
Yeah,
right?
it's
You don't
really good.
say the Rosary, you pray the Rosary. Um, those are things I always let's go to Mass. Father, are you saying Mass? No, I'm supposed to pray the Mass. So yeah, so the Mass is just one prayer. Even the Latin Mass, where there's not a lot of back and forth from the congregation and the priest, you're still supposed to be in prayer the entire time.
Yeah. And I think like the Latin Mass, it's easier to pray than like compared to a Novus Ordo Mass, where it's kind of more a community-based experience almost. Like
The ones that I grew up with were right.
yeah,
If you ever saw the Mass before COVID, right, they had the sign of peace,
hmm
where sometimes there's like high fives going on if you look around, and
yeah,
I mean, not really, but it might as well be that now after COVID, that's no longer done. And my wife and I talk about that often. I'm glad,
praise
because
be to
it's a
God.
disruption of the Mass.
It's
Uh,
like one of the most solemn moments too. Like
exactly.
just
So you just had the Lamb of God and everything right there. And now you're stopping, shaking everybody's hands, say, hey, what are you doing after church? And high fives and peace signs and stuff like that. So yeah, no, it's I guess if anything good came from COVID, that was they dropped a lot of the sign of peace.
yeah, and yeah, I was lucky to avoid COVID. I came into the church after COVID, so
Yeah,
Uh,
BC before COVID.
yeah. So when did you discover St. Martin of Tours? Was that like in 20?
So I started the new job in the fall of 2015, and this car ride was in December of 2015. We started going there. We went to Mass. I don't know. It might have been February.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of hee-hawed around. My buddy would come in on Monday from Cincinnati. Dave, did you go to Mass yesterday? No, I didn't go. Oh, come on, Dave. You got to get on. You got to go. You got to go. And so, yeah, I started there, and we actually became members in the spring of 2016.
So yeah, you were going to church by the time COVID came around. So
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
what was that like? Any nightmares, trauma from that?
From the COVID experience?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
And,
Yeah, that's interesting. So I guess the term longing is valid here because I felt a longing to go and I couldn't. I mean, and I guess that's a good thing, right? I felt like I got to go. I have to go to Mass. I want to go to Mass, and I can't. And I felt like it was something very precious was taken away from me. And so for those, wow, what was that, 3 months or so?
yeah.
We watched it online, and it was just not the same at all. And we had just instituted the ad orientem for that Mass, for 10 o'clock Mass. Excuse me. And we were using patents. So as a server, one of my roles was to, be with the priest or the deacon during communion using the patent. So all that had been taken away as well. So after the Mass had come back, they no longer allowed patents for a while. Now they may be reestablishing that soon, since most of these COVID restrictions have kind of gone away now.
Yeah. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
It was like 3 years of COVID.
Oh,
You
yeah.
thought it'd be over in a month, and then 3 years later.
Yeah. Let's flatten the curve in 2 weeks, and 2 years go by, and yeah. But I think for a lot of people, I hope others felt the same way, where something that they love was taken away, and they felt that longing for it. So I know I've talked to several families at St. Martin's, and I know that there's a true love for that parish. And again, I think it's because they're not they're teaching the true faith, and they're not wavering to the latest fads, if you will.
Yeah.
At least I haven't seen that since 2016. So what's that now? 7 years?
Yeah. So have you ever been to St. Louis Bertrand?
Yes, I have.
Do you also enjoy that church?
So we went there for one Mass, and I forget what happened at St. Martin's. There was an issue or something at St. Martin's, and so they moved everybody over to St. Louis Bertrand. Also, that is a great place for confession because they have so many priests there. You can get in, and you can actually have more than 2 minutes for a confession. So I've gone there several times for confessions. Also, did you know that most, at least the traditional parishes, or the ones that are not just recently built, but the stained glass windows have one of the mysteries of the Rosary?
Yeah, like I don't know if I ever realized that, but I've recognized they have like a
St.
pattern.
Louis Bertrand has all 3 of the mysteries.
Ooh, it's
So
pretty
you can
cool.
look at all the stained glass up there, and you can see the well, not the luminous, obviously, but the 3 original mysteries of the Rosary.
Mhm.
So now, if we're traveling somewhere, because we kind of do a little bit of traveling, when we go out and look around, we find our parish that we're going to go to on that Sunday on masstimes.org,
Yeah.
right? First thing I do when I walk in is I look for the stained glass windows to see which mystery of the Rosary. I don't know if they're all that way, but a majority of them are that way.
Mhm.
So a little bit of a trivia there.
Yeah, like I've heard people say like Saint Martin's and Saint Louis Bertrand are almost like brother and sister or something.
Yeah,
Just
and
the
they're
two most traditional churches.
they're
in the
very
area.
traditional. Yeah, and then I think there's one more in Louisville. I want to say it's Holy Angels. I think that's,
Yeah.
but it's on the south side of Louisville. I think they also teach, or not teach, but they also pray the Latin Mass. So another traditional parish.
Mhm.
So I think that form of the Mass, is growing, and I think that strength in that teaching attracts people. I really do. I mean, I was just totally blown away when I saw it, and I guess it's the Confiteor. When I saw the servers, they had 4 servers during the Confiteor, and there's a motion they make. So they're in a very low bow, and then they tilt their heads towards the priest. I think when they say the word padre, they'll
Mhm.
tilt their head. I was just, I mean, what is that? What are they doing? It was such a mystery to me, right? It
Yeah.
was magical. So I've been asked to serve at that Mass, and I told them no, because I want that to remain mysterious to me. I want that to be something extremely special that I'm not behind the scenes on, or I don't want to know all the details that go in to make it happen. I want to enjoy that as a mystery when I go to the Latin Mass.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about like Ad Orientem. Like it's just mysterious. Like to see
Right.
the priest up there doing something, you can't see what he's doing, but
Yeah.
then he raises the body and raises the blood.
Yep. There's a cool image, a cool painting I saw before. It's like what's happening at the elevation, and it has a picture of the crucifix with Jesus, obviously with Jesus on it, looking down, as if those two, our current world and that time, has come together.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful image. If I could find it in print, it'd be on my wall behind me. It's a beautiful image.
I think I've seen that picture before.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I need like an editor or something to be able to bring up photos. Like how some
Yeah.
of the podcasters will have like another guy or whatever. But
So let's see.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're coming up. We almost did an hour. Went by quick.
yeah, it did. Yeah, look. Thanks for asking me to do this. I'm glad you asked, but it's been fun
Yeah.
to sponsor somebody that, like I told Father Carr, when when you sponsor somebody, if your viewers aren't aware, you have some ceremonies, right? And you read through these things that make it official. In the sponsor, in my case, you have to respond, he is ready, or these things. Well, I mean, we knew each other, what, a month?
Yeah.
So how am I really going to know you're ready? Well, I knew you were ready because you gave me your website. I knew you were doing this kind of stuff. You told me about all the things you've been reading, and you were just telling me things. I'm like, well, that sounds right. I remember hearing that before. So it's been fun to actually, not only sponsor you and be your godfather, but to also learn with you, I should say, to continue to learn with you.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
you've been the best godfather I'll have. So
well, thanks. So, so I appreciate you having me on.
yeah. So Yeah, one last thing I was going to ask you. Have you ever
Yeah.
considered like the diaconate, becoming a deacon? Uh,
Yes. Well, I've been asked, and I don't think that's my calling. Um, you ask her what drove me to, or why I wanted to become a server. I
yeah.
think, I think that's just the highest level I've been called to do.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe my gifts are elsewhere, um, but I don't know that I can make that commitment and be
Yeah, it's a
true
big
at it.
commitment.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's a life commitment. I mean, you make that for life.
Mhm.
But yeah, I've been asked if I would be interested in it, and I said, well, at first I said, let me think about it, and I thought about it. I'm like, it's just not my calling, you know.
Yeah. And I still have like 14 years before I really need to think about it. But I thought it just popped in my head one day. It might be cool to do, or
Mhm.
um, so yeah, I'm definitely called to marriage over like the priesthood or religious life. But you can be married and be a deacon, so it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know all of the, I'll say the rules of that. I know that you fall under the jurisdiction, I guess, of the archbishop,
Hmm.
I believe. So, but I think you're not, they can't order you from parish to parish. I think you can kind of choose where you want to be. I think. Don't hold me to that, but I think.
Yeah. Um,
Well, that's good. I mean, so yeah, you say you have about 14 years. Is there a minimum age for that?
yeah, 35, and I'm only
30?
21, so
Oh, you young guys.
uh,
All
I
right.
can drink now.
Yeah,
Drink
that's
wine.
right. Well,
But
uh,
yeah, so yeah, any last thoughts, or do you want to shout out your channel and stuff?
no, no. My last thoughts would be, I think anybody that's watching this should know that, even as a bad Catholic,
Mhm.
there may be some car ride, if you will, that you take one day, or whatever it may be. For me, it was a car ride, but you need to be listening. And I think you need to um, take that and do your own research and come to your conclusions that, you know, okay, this might have been my signal. I mean, this might have been the time that God was giving me a voice to hear, and somebody that was strong-willed. This guy was very strong-willed. He kept on me. Why didn't you go to mass? Why didn't you go to mass? Why didn't you go to mass? And I kept on me, and I kept doing my research. And the more I started digging in, the more I found out that, well, the Catholic faith is the one true faith, and it has to be taught in the right way. And I'm very lucky that I found the right parish. Um, so that I'm very grateful for. Um,
Definitely.
yeah.
Uh,
So
just the
no,
beauty and tradition of it. Like if you seek beauty and tradition, eventually you'll find Saint Martin of Tours.
yes, you will. Yep. Yes, you will.
So yeah, it's and you're definitely welcome on the podcast again for another interview or the roundtables. I haven't done them yet, but like every Friday, I'm gonna try to do like a live show or whatever.
Mhm.
We can have up to 10 people, so like whoever wants to join can join, and there will be like a main topic. I think the first one needs to be about Lent since we're currently in the Lent
Mhm.
season. But yeah, it's this has been one of my favorite interviews so far. It's
Well, good. I'm
really
glad.
cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
So yeah, you also have a YouTube channel.
I do have a YouTube channel. Like I said earlier, the reason I know about masstimes.org is because my wife and I travel right now just a few times a year in an RV with our two dogs. Um, so we have a little YouTube channel. It's called RV, like the RV, Wagging Tails, like dogs are wagging their tails.
Mhm.
And it's just a little clips of us doing RV travels with our dogs. And, you know, I thought about actually maybe when we're out and we're visiting parishes to maybe do like a video on the parishes that we visit. That'd be kind of fun.
Ooh, yeah, that would be cool.
Also, and I think I sent you an idea. I think we're going to do a video on, do you pray before you leave for your trips? And
Yeah, I saw the script of that. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Really good. Well written.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I think I'm going to record that soon and then get that out while Lent, while we're still in the time of Lent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, well, thank you for the plug. But
I'll put it all in the bio, the links and all that. So
that's fine. Yeah.
It'll be easier for the viewers to find.
Yeah. And likewise. Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, we can end with a prayer if you like. Do you have a favorite prayer? We can just do like a Hail Mary or something, honestly. But
I like the St. Michael prayer.
Yeah, it's yeah, I don't know if I told you this, but you can see like my name tag over there, Michael Snellen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Michael's my middle name. Chase is the first name, but I think Michael sounds better. It's kind of more professional, so that's why I chose like a writer name originally, and I prefer that name nowadays, I guess. But
Michael.
Yeah.
All right, you got it.
My family still calls me Chase. I can't get them to convert, but
yeah. Well, yeah. Let's we can do St. Michael prayer. So,
all right. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
St. Michael, the archangel, defend us in battle, be our protection against the wickedness, the snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits who prowl throughout the world, seeking the ruins of souls. Amen.
In the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
All right, David, have a good night, and all the viewers have a good night as well. We'll roll the outro.